It started out like any other day for Emily, a bright and determined college student. She hopped on her scooter after classes, ready to head home, unaware of the storm brewing just ahead. Cruising down a quiet stretch of road, she noticed a group of bikers behind her, loud, reckless, and clearly not there to mind their own business. At first, Emily brushed it off, but their laughter grew louder, their taunts sharper. They began circling her, revving their engines, making her feel trapped and powerless. Her heart pounded as she clutched the handlebars, desperate to stay calm. What these bikers didn't know was that Emily wasn't as defenseless as she seemed. Her father, a retired Marine sniper, had trained her to face challenges head-on, though she never expected to use those lessons like this. Little did they realize that Emily was just moments away from turning their game into something they'd never forget. Stay tuned to see how this fearless young woman handled a situation no one saw coming. Emily's grip tightened on the handlebars as the bikers continued to circle her. Their laughter echoed in the empty stretch of road, making her feel more isolated with every passing second. She forced herself to stay focused, silently recalling the lessons her father had taught her over the years. Stay aware of your surroundings, stay calm, and never let fear control you. His words echoed in her mind. Her dad wasn't just any Marine. He was a sniper, someone who knew how to stay composed in the most intense situations. Growing up, he had always made sure Emily could take care of herself, but she never thought she'd be putting those skills to the test like this. One of the bikers edged closer, his engine roaring as he tried to intimidate her. Emily glanced around, trying to spot an escape route, but the narrow road and their intimidating presence left her options limited. She couldn't call for help, and turning back wasn't an option. Little did these bikers know, they had unknowingly picked on the wrong girl. Emily's mind raced as she tried to think of a way out. The bikers were getting bolder, inching closer, their loud engines drowning out the quiet evening air. One of them leaned in, smirking, and shouted something she couldn't quite hear over the noise. She felt her pulse quicken, but she refused to let fear take over. Her father had always told her to stay one step ahead, to look for the opportunity no one else saw. While she kept her face calm, her eyes scanned the road ahead. In the distance, she spotted a narrow dirt trail cutting into the woods. Barely wide enough for a scooter, but likely too tight for the bikers' larger bikes. She made a mental note of it, but knew she'd need perfect timing to make her move. For now, she kept steady, giving the group no reason to suspect her plan. What Emily didn't know was that her father had been tracking her location. As a former sniper, his instincts were sharper than ever, and he sensed something wasn't right. Far away, he was already in motion, preparing for the unexpected. But for Emily, the clock was ticking, and the bikers weren't backing off anytime soon. The bikers were relentless, their engines growling as they tightened their formation around Emily. She could feel their presence pressing in on her, the weight of their intimidation becoming harder to ignore. Every second felt like an eternity as she kept her focus on the dirt trail ahead, waiting for the right moment to break free. Her father's voice echoed in her mind again. Control what you can. Don't let panic take over. She repeated those words like a mantra, steadying her breath. One of the bikers suddenly swerved closer, forcing Emily to jerk her scooter to the side. His laughter rang out, but Emily caught the briefest flicker of frustration in his expression. They wanted her to react, to give in to the fear they were trying so hard to create. But Emily wasn't about to give them that satisfaction. Instead, she kept her pace steady, inching closer to the trail, her plan forming with every second. Meanwhile, her father was speeding down a different road, his military training kicking into overdrive. He had already calculated the most likely routes and scenarios, his instincts guiding him toward Emily's location. Back on the road, Emily's eyes flicked to the trail as she prepared to make her move, her heart pounding in her chest. The bikers, still unaware of who they were dealing with, had no idea how quickly the balance of power was about to shift. Emily made her move. With a sudden burst of speed, she veered off the main road and onto the narrow dirt trail, the sound of her scooter's engine echoing through the trees. The bikers reacted instantly, shouting to each other as they tried to follow. But the trail was tight and uneven, and their larger bikes weren't built for the sharp turns and rough terrain. For a moment, Emily thought she'd gained the upper hand, but then she heard the roar of a single engine behind her. One of them was determined, forcing his bike through the trail, getting closer with every second. Just as her heart sank at the thought of being caught, she noticed something ahead that made her stomach drop, a fallen tree blocking the path. She had seconds to decide whether to stop or risk going around it through the thick brush. As she calculated her next move, she heard another sound, a car engine, distant but closing in fast. It was her father, though she had no idea he was so close. The biker behind her yelled something she couldn't make out, his voice laced with anger. But as Emily prepared for the worst, a sharp crack echoed through the woods, cutting through the noise. It wasn't the sound of an engine, and it wasn't random. It was calculated, deliberate. Something had shifted, but she couldn't quite place it. The tension in the air grew heavier as both Emily and the biker realized the game they were playing had just changed. Emily's heart pounded as she skidded to a halt, her scooter mere feet from the fallen tree. The biker was closing in fast, his engine roaring like a predator about to strike. She glanced around, weighing her chances of escape through the dense woods, but before she could make a move, another sharp crack echoed through the air. This time, the sound was unmistakable, a warning shot, deliberate, and controlled. The biker froze, his engine sputtering as he slowed down. From the shadows, a commanding voice cut through the tension. "Step away from her." Now. Emily's father emerged, his stance steady and his gaze cold. He didn't need to say much more. His presence alone was enough to shift the balance of power. The biker hesitated, his earlier bravado evaporating as he realized he was outmatched. Without another word, he turned his bike around and sped off, leaving Emily and her father alone on the trail. Emily ran toward her dad, relief washing over her as she reached him. But before they could speak, a second sound caught their attention, a faint rumble of engines in the distance. The rest of the bikers weren't far behind. Her father's expression hardened. "We're not done yet," he said, scanning the woods for their next move. Emily's eyes widened as she realized this wasn't over, but her fear was replaced with determination. With her father by her side, she knew they had what it took to face whatever was coming next. The danger might not have been fully behind them, but Emily was no longer afraid. Emily and her father didn't waste a second. Together, they pushed her scooter off the trail and into the cover of the trees, staying low as the rumble of the remaining bikers grew louder. Her father's calm presence steadied her as they waited, hidden from view. The group sped past the trail, unaware that their intended prey had vanished into the woods. The sound of their engines slowly faded, leaving an eerie silence behind. When they were sure the bikers were gone, Emily turned to her father, a mixture of gratitude and disbelief in her eyes. "How did you know I needed you?" she asked, her voice shaky but steady. He gave her a small, reassuring smile. "I always know, kiddo. You're my daughter." They made their way back to the road, where her father's truck was parked nearby. As they loaded up the scooter, Emily felt a deep sense of relief and pride. She had faced fear head-on and come out stronger, but it was her father's unwavering support that reminded her she was never truly alone.